one quick second here as we get the demonstration set up. It's a sound we'll be hearing a lot in coming years. So, good evening. Thank you for that introduction. My name is Frank Sedlar, and today we're going to talk about the city from a new perspective, the city from the sky. Now, we've been viewing the city from the sky for quite some time now, probably longer than you think. All the way back in 1860, Sir James Wallace Black was floating high above the city of Boston in a hot air balloon, snapping the very first photo of a city. A couple years after, George Lawrence took to the skies of San Francisco in a blimp following the 1906 earthquake to photograph the devastation of the cities. Now, aerial photography is great from planes, hot air balloons, and blimps, but what about unmanned aerial vehicles, or drones? You've probably heard a lot about drones in recent years, even months. It's kind of a very hot topic right now. But drones, as it turns out, are also a lot older than you may think. Back in 1914, 100 years ago, during World War I, the Bavarian Pigeon Corps was formed. Basically, pigeons with a camera strapped to their chest to provide reconnaissance over enemy lines. Now, we've come a long way since then. For better or for worse, pigeons have been replaced by a pretty powerful array of drones. I happen to have one right here, which we're going to take up here. This particular drone is the Dji Phantom 2. For under $1,000, this drone offers a ridiculously easy flight platform, has a range of a couple thousand meters on one single battery, which lasts 20 minutes. It can even be pre-programmed from an iPad to fly a set flight path. You simply press start, the drone takes off, go grab a cup of coffee and come back and the drone has landed. Impressive, right? It's a lot cooler in person though, I assure you this. So, without further ado, let's fly. Now, I'm going to try and fly this drone and talk, so forgive me if there's a little hiccup here. This, I believe, is the future of cities, the future of urban management from the sky. Now, I could sit here and fly this for 15 minutes, but there's other stuff to talk about, so we'll be giving demonstrations after this. So, here's what we have. Attached to this drone is also a GoPro camera and a 3-axis brushless gimbal, something to keep the camera stabilized in flight. All those stunning videos you've seen online, they all have the same gimbal. Now, what this drone gives us, if we keep it below, say, about 150 meters, which is needed for accurate aerial photography and data collection, is a working radius of about 2 square kilometers, which is pretty impressive. Now, Sir James Wallace Black and George Lawrence both realized the importance and what looking at the city from the sky afforded us. But I contend today that this view of the cities is just as important as it was then, if not more so. You see, and this is figures you've all heard, the UN predicts by 2050 there'll be 9.6 billion people living on this planet. Estimated that 70% of these people, or by other estimates 137%, will live in cities. What this means is that cities are growing very, very complex, both in terms of population and the built environment. We need accurate data constantly being updated to help us with the health of infrastructure and basically just understanding the city. Now, I contend that drones will be one of the main tools to view the city. But it won't be one $50,000 drone flying above the city flown by professionals. It's going to be $50,000, $1,000 drones just like this, flown by the very citizens of that city. Call it crowdsourcing drones. Furthermore, I assure you that when a drone crashes, because drones crash, $1,000 drone crashing, do we have a video here? Only causes me to lose a night of sleep, whereas a $50,000 drone crashing causes a lot more headaches. And down we go. The camera survived. So what do I mean by crowdsourcing drone data? Well, crowdsourcing data is nothing new for cities. In fact, we've heard some about it already tonight. As an example, though, let me tell you quickly about my work in Jakarta, Indonesia, on the Pay to Jakarta project. Now, Jakarta has a severe problem of flooding, some of the worst in the world. Jakarta also has, and something that's very useful, the highest rate of Twitter usage in the entire planet. We thought, surely in this mass of tweets, someone must be saying something about flooding. It turns out we were correct. What we see here is a map of Jakarta, overlain with every single tweet during last year's monsoon season with the keyword banjir, or flood in Bahasa Indonesia. What we're doing with this data is turning this into real-time, up-to-date, accurate maps of flooding in Jakarta. Imagine the same thing being done with drones. What would this take? Well, first think back to the 2 square kilometer working radius that I mentioned that this drone has, which, compared to other drones on the market today, is certainly on the smaller side. And let's go back then to Boston, the site of the first aerial photograph of a city. Here we see Boston, a nice city if you haven't been. About 650,000 people live in Boston in 125 square kilometers. To completely cover Boston with a drone, ensuring accurate, up-to-date, reliable and cheap information, data, and photographs, would only take 71 drones throughout the entire city of Boston, or roughly 1 drone every 10,000 people. What about Barcelona? Barcelona has about 1 million more people than Boston in a slightly smaller area. In Barcelona's case, only 58 drones, or 1 drone every 30,000 people. And finally, Jakarta. Jakarta is interesting because it's one of the largest cities in the world, a population of over 10 million, in the 2nd largest urban footprint in the world. So in this upper limit of cities, city size, city population, it would still take under 400 drones to completely cover Jakarta with a drone. Now, I guarantee you that each of these 3 cities I've listed here have this many drones in its population already, if not double or triple. What this means is that drones have already become they're already at critical mass. The technology of drones can be turned into something useful, meaningful, and actionable, in our case, for urban management, rather than just kind of a novelty item. Granted, I've ignored some of the finer points here, such as where these drones are actually located, safety, and other considerations. But that's not the key point here, it's the critical mass. The drones also have one other thing going for them. They're a developed system. Now, at this point, basically every week there's a new drone being put to the market, usually more advanced, more sophisticated, smarter, and cheaper than the ones before it. It's a bit interesting, though, talking about drones for urban management, because in nearly every city in the world, drones are illegal to fly. There's a number of privacy and safety issues, rightly so. You see this drone is tethered here. I didn't quite trust it to fly in front of all United folks. So there's certainly a number of things that must be overcome before drones are legal, but we're well on our way. What comes next, of course, is specific applications for drones with specific sensors. Imagine drones carrying a Wi-Fi hotspot around with them wherever they go. You've heard of drones being developed to deliver packages. Imagine them delivering medical supplies. How about infrastructure modeling? Perfect for drones. The field is wide open. It's going to happen. It's not the question of if it's going to happen, it's a question of when. To give you an idea of the tip of this iceberg, though, let me show you what we've been doing in Jakarta. So one of the things we're doing in Jakarta is mapping out the informal communities along the rivers. We had been using free Google imagery, but that just proved to be too coarse. We looked into buying commercial satellite imagery to the tune of a couple $1,000s. What we see here, this very same drone flying and mapping out these parts of Jakarta. Here's Google imagery, which is, you notice the difference, how finely detailed the drone video is. And this is, of course, more or less free once it's purchased here, anywhere else in the city as well. So what we're doing here is taking all this imagery and running it through some processing algorithms to basically map the city, every building, every road, every street. What this data is then uploaded to is OpenStreetMaps, basically a free online version of Google Maps. And this is still a work in progress. I was doing some of this on the flight over here. But you can see what this drone is giving these people of this part of Jakarta is the most up-to-date, the most accurate picture of their community to help with flood evacuation routes. What about infrastructure modeling and monitoring? What we see here is a picture of the Manggarai flood locks in central Jakarta, the old locks on the left and the new expansion being built on the right. We're flying these drones over every floodgate, pump house, and reservoir in Jakarta in order to build the most accurate model, the network model of Jakarta and how the flooding affects each piece of infrastructure. The detail and the parameters we need about this infrastructure is only possible with drones. And finally, at a larger scale, what if we could do this for the whole city? Here's a snapshot of Jakarta, quite spatially complex, though certainly by no means unique to Jakarta. Imagine, after a rainstorm hits and the flooding has begun, while those rain clouds are still covering the skies, preventing planes or satellites from taking photos, to have 300 citizens from around the city send up their drones in each part of this map. With that data, we could very easily determine which parts of the city are flooded, which roads are open. One thing we're working on to deploy this January in the monsoon is a sensor for this drone that tells the water depth, even the water velocity. This is the future of drones for urban management. So as we've seen, drones and aerial photography of cities is nothing new. However, what is new is the use for ubiquitous aerial imagery and ubiquitous data collection, something we're still just on the outside looking in. So, of course, there's a number of legal, safety, and technical issues that first must be overcome. I assure you they will be, to get these drones in the skies above our cities. As the populations of our cities grow ever more complex and the built environment becomes larger and larger and more difficult to comprehend, perhaps the only option in the 21st century will be to view cities from the sky. Thank you.